Colonialism profoundly affected Africa in several ways, shaping its political, economic, social, and cultural landscapes. Here are some key effects. 1. Political fragmentation and borders. Artificial borders. Colonial powers often drew arbitrary borders without regard for ethnic, cultural, or linguistic groups. This led to the creation of states with diverse and sometimes hostile communities, contributing to post-independence conflicts and instability. Weak political institutions. Colonial administrations focused on extracting resources rather than building sustainable political institutions. As a result, many post-colonial African nations inherited weak governance structures, leading to instability, corruption, and authoritarianism. 2. Economic exploitation and underdevelopment***. Resource extraction. Colonial powers primarily viewed Africa as a source of raw materials and cheap labor. This led to the extraction of natural resources, minerals, crops, etc., for the benefit of the colonial powers, with little investment in local industries or infrastructure. Monoculture economies. Many African economies were oriented around a single or few cash crops or resources, such as rubber, coffee, or gold. This left countries vulnerable to fluctuations in global commodity prices and hindered diversified economic development. Displacement of traditional economies. Colonialism disrupted traditional economic systems, replacing them with capitalist structures that were largely foreign to African societies. 3. Cultural disruption. Erosion of traditional cultures. Colonial powers often imposed their own cultural, religious, and educational systems, marginalizing or suppressing indigenous cultures, languages, and religions. This led to a loss of cultural identity for many African communities. Western education and Christianity. Western-style education systems and Christian missionaries spread during colonial rule, leading to changes in African social structures and values, though they also facilitated the rise of African nationalist movements. 4. Social division and ethnic tensions. Divide and rule. Colonial powers often used a divide and rule strategy, favoring certain ethnic groups over others to maintain control. This fostered ethnic divisions and created legacies of tension and conflict that persist in many African countries today. Forced labor and migration. Many Africans were forced to work on plantations, mines, and infrastructure projects. Additionally, the demand for labor caused large migrations and displacements of populations, disrupting social cohesion. 5. Health and demographic impact. Introduction of new diseases. Colonialism facilitated the spread of diseases such as smallpox, influenza, and others, to which many African populations had no immunity. Population decline. The forced labor systems, wars of resistance against colonial powers, and harsh treatment under colonial regimes led to significant population declines in some regions. 6. Colonial resistance and nationalism. Anti-colonial movements. The harsh conditions and exploitation under colonialism led to widespread resistance. Nationalist movements emerged, leading to the eventual independence of most African countries by the mid-20th century. These movements also fostered a sense of national identity, though often at the expense of pre-colonial identities. 7. Long-term development challenges. Economic dependency. Post-colonial African economies often remained dependent on their former colonizers for trade and aid, leading to neo-colonial dynamics. The lack of diversified economies and the legacy of extraction hindered long-term economic development. Debt and structural adjustment. In the post-independence era, many African countries struggled with debt and were subjected to structural adjustment programs imposed by international financial institutions, often exacerbating poverty and inequality. In summary, colonialism left a complex and lasting legacy on Africa, impacting its development in profound ways, many of which continue to affect the continent today.